Our students are the future. How we advance innovation and impact and approach equity in their classrooms will determine how we thrive as a world community. The status quo just won't cut it. That's why we're here to break the grade. Hello, breakers and difference makers. I'm Josh Chernikoff, host of How I Broke That. I'm a two-time entrepreneur in the education space, and I've successfully exited both of those companies. I've experienced my fair share of breaks in my life, and I'm here to bring my signature approach to my new show, Breaking the Grade. I'm embarking on this special journey alongside my good friend and mentor, John Gamba, Director of Innovative Programs and Entrepreneur in Residence at Penn GSE. In our podcast, you'll hear from emerging business owners in the education space who are working to transform education as we know it. Tune in as we hear about industry trends, unique principles and practices, and the attempts that have and haven't worked for our grade-breaking guests. So fellow entrepreneurs and educators, what do you think? Are you ready to take a hammer to the education space and break the grade? Some of the episodes I've had when I've done LinkedIn Lives this year, they don't just teach, they show. And I'm honored because my team chose one of my own LinkedIn Lives where I was flying solo, literally, as one of the best of from 2025. This LinkedIn Live I did on my own. I did it at the Canadian EdTech Summit at the University of Toronto. I did it in a room which was an office of a professor who I didn't even know. And it quickly became one of the most shared episodes of the year. Why? Because every founder's been where I was. Flying home from a conference with a stack of business cards and this idea that you're going to have zero follow-ups again. In this best of 2025 replay, I break down exactly how education founders and CEOs can turn every summit, every panel, every handshake at a conference into real leads, and how to lead the room even if you're not on the stage. This is your conference playbook. Honestly, it's not about attending more events in 2026. It's about showing up at events with a strategy, closing with clarity, and then walking away with a pipeline. Not just selfies. This is breaking the grade, and this is going to be your blueprint for how you show up at events in 2026, and you close deals from those events. Enjoy it. Welcome to Breaking the Grade. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a live edition of Breaking the Grade. And you might be saying, where the heck is Professor Josh this week? Because I look like I'm in a room of a professor. And the reason is because I am live from the University of Toronto. I am up here in Toronto at the Canadian EdTech Summit, led by our a good friend of the show, Robert Martellacci. And I came up here on Tuesday. Conference don't start till Wednesday. I came up here on Tuesday, and Robert hosted my new friends, Ryan, Raj, JP, myself. With Robert, we went to the Maple Leafs game. We went to the Toronto Maple Leafs game. And that was exciting. And Raj, who's from Singapore, lives in Singapore, went to his first hockey game. And then after that, we stayed at the arena and we were able to watch on the big screen the Blue Jays beat up on the LA Dodgers. So that was a really exciting experience. Didn't get home until like midnight, and I'm an old man. I like to be in bed by 8. So I'm running on fumes here because then yesterday was the beginning of the conference. Last night, Robert hosted a beautiful dinner. And then we went and watched the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. So this morning, woke up, worked out, met with the team, my team, had a great call, and then had some coaching to do. And here I am doing our LinkedIn Live because you got to show up. And then I'm going on a panel in 2.5 hours. So it's been a busy time if you guys haven't noticed. Last week, DC Startup Week. This week, University of Toronto, Canadian EdTech Week. Next week, I'm speaking at a summit, but I will be in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. And then the week after that, I'm in New Mexico for IEI with Doug Roberts and crew. So it led me to think with my team, Alvin and Ken and Kim and Areli, that we should be talking about conferences and their value. And we've talked about this before, but it really bears worth repeating how valuable conferences can be and how invaluable conferences can be, because they can be both. So when we go to conferences, we book our flights, we book our hotels, you got the booth, you got the banner, all that stuff, you know what's involved. And you leave with a stack of business cards. Yay! Those aren't contracts, by the way. Just business cards. Here's the truth. Conferences don't grow your business. The strategy that you bring to a conference, now that can grow your business. I'm at the Canadian EdTech Summit, and I came here with a really clear plan, a clear message, a clear offer, and clear credibility. And I walked in this morning. Well, no, was it this morning? It was midday. And I instantly got a chance to speak to a few different people who wanted to talk to me, which is a really wonderful feeling. They wanted to learn about how I could help them. So there was no selling that I had to do. So events matter when you show up ready, okay? And when you go with the let's just see what happens, generally nothing good happens. So before you land at any event, here are 3 things that I want you to think about. First of all, you need to have your one-line promise that sells your system. You need to have your headline. I help who, using what method, get which results. And if that sounds familiar, that's the method that we use to create formulas in the Ed Sales Elevation Experience. Our next Ed Sales Elevation Experience starts, by the way, in January. You need to show up with your perfect client in mind. Who are the 5 to 10 people that you want to meet at that particular conference? Not 50 to 100. Don't blast everybody. Excuse my language. Tell me if this is okay, Alvin, but that shit doesn't work. 5 to 10 people. Let me see something here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I practice what I preach, folks. I have 8 business cards right there in between 5 to 10. And I have been targeting these people because I want to talk to them because I know I can help them. You have to have your follow-up flow set up. What does that mean? 24 hours after you meet them, you follow up. You could do it via LinkedIn, you could do it via email, but you want to get that conversation going. So today we're going to talk about how you get on the stage which is where I'm headed right after this, the right approach when you get a chance to talk to people, how to turn a handshake into a strategy session. The biggest mistakes that founders make, and there are a lot when it comes to conferences, and I'll tell you some real stories because I'm really living this a lot. And if I look tired, I am. If I look pale, I might be, because I've been living off of Nature Valley bars and chocolate chip cookies for what feels like the last week. Here's what I do know. You do not need a booth. You do not need a booth. You need a plan. Okay? You absolutely need a plan. And most founders, they're going to overspend on a booth. And a booth doesn't close business. A conversation does. So I've never been about the booth. I get very uncomfortable standing in the back of those tables anyway, and I end up standing in front of the table, which defeats the purpose of the booth. If your banner says more than your pitch, you've already lost. You need to be able to articulate to people who walk up to you or you walk up to how you can help them, what method you use, and maybe how long it takes. The real ROI comes from the hallway chat with the superintendent, the DM after the breakout session. Now you can, it's kind of weird, I know, but now you can take your iPhone, you can just like touch it to somebody else's and you can just like magically share information. That's pretty cool, pretty weird, but pretty cool. One intentional coffee that turns into a pilot, I've seen it happen. And I can tell you that there are two conversations I had with providers here, aka vendors, that I will be buying from them. Because I listened, we had great coffee, and there you go. The stage, though, should be your strategy. The stage should be your strategy. If you really want credibility, don't buy a booth. Grab the mic. Probably not two of them. Grab a mic. Okay? And here's how you make that happen. You start very small. Start very small. Okay? Offer to moderate a panel. It's a great place to start. Anchor it to a hot topic. Let me think of one here. AI is a good one, of course. Attendance, teacher retention. Offer to moderate a topic you know a lot about. So in my case, it would be lead gen. Pitch outcomes and not opinions. We don't really want to get into opinions when you've got the mic. We want to talk about outcomes. What you can do is begin to coach people through the mic. You are not going to a conference to sell, and you are definitely, if you follow me, you are definitely not going to a conference to try and close. You're going to try and coach. So if you have the opportunity to grab the mic, you might want to give a talk about 3 mistakes that your perfect client makes, and then 3 ways that they can begin to make less of those mistakes. And if they'd like to talk more, reach out, grab that QR code. Let's have a strategy session. And then you begin to nurture that relationship. But then what you've done is you've begun to earn their trust. You've begun to help them at no cost. That's a great place to start, and you have a microphone in your hand. I'm about to go through this a little bit myself. I'm on a very large panel, and some of the people I'm on the panel with are a little bit intimidating to me. Lisa Schmucky, Evan St. Lifer, a few other people that I've only stood around. But I deserve to be there. I'm really prepared. I'm really prepared for the talk. I know this stuff. I deserve to be on that stage. Buyers trust people who have credibility, not just vendors who talk. And by the way, I'm not selling anything. I'm getting to know people to see if we're a good fit. The follow-up is the game as well. There's two parts to this. And I start the second half of the game when I get on that plane, when I fly from Toronto back to Washington, D.C. I'm going to take these business cards and I'm going to make sure everybody's in a place that I want them in our CRM. I'm going to make sure everybody is connected to me on LinkedIn. And then I'll tag them appropriately that I met them at this wonderful conference led by Robert Martellacci. What I will not do is send them a deck. What I will not do is send them a PDF. What I will do is offer to meet with them, see if I can help them, see if I can learn more, and go and listen. If you guys know about the Raise Your Hand campaign, we do that in the third or fourth week of the Ed Sales Elevation Experience. I treat conferences, all of them, like a big Raise Your Hand campaign where I just go to listen. I let people know who I am and how I can help them, and then I say, how can I help you? At that point, I'm potentially giving strategies or I'm learning where their challenges are so I can frame the conversation. But I am not trying to sell anything about the Ed Sales Elevation Experience. You guys know that. I'm trying to build momentum. I'm trying to build trust. I'm trying to build momentum and trust when I shake the hand and when I do the follow-up. I also want you to turn your presence into pipeline. So one thing that you should do, and we've got this system down, so if you want some help with it, let me know. You can message me on LinkedIn. You can email me. Is that we really, really want you to build your presence before you get on that stage. And when you build that presence before you get on that stage, you're letting people know you're going to be there and they can start preparing. And then people start reaching out. So announce that you're going to be there. Excited to connect with leaders rethinking student attendance at such and such summit. Excited to be on this panel with such and such people. And then, by the way, tag them in because that post might get more reach. In the room, you can also just kind of go live. We figured that out. We did it last week. We're not going to do it for this one. You can go live. You can post a short video. You know, you could take your phone and say, hey, here's a big takeaway from what we did today on the panel. You can do a post-game follow-up, which I will do tomorrow for sure from this panel and from the conference. And you can extend the conversation. You can turn those moments into conversations, and those conversations can be coaching opportunities. And those coaching opportunities can eventually lead to clients and contracts. You see where I'm going with this? Lots of C's. So you don't need to necessarily chase more conferences. That's not what I'm saying here. You need to create more clarity at the ones that you attend. You need to create more clarity at the conferences that you attend. I'm not saying go to more. Don't show up hoping, show up knowing who you serve, what you solve, and also know what happens next. Have a plan for you and the people that you meet. Have a plan for all these business cards. That's how you go from an attendee to authority to advisor. When you come in with that plan to a conference, you can take that track. And that's how you turn a summit like this into a friggin' sales engine. Okay? All of this started truly with me wanting to get to know Robert Martellacci. There was something about the guy that I just wanted to get to know him. And interestingly enough, I have only figured out in the last 48 hours what it was. Thanks, Austin. Hope you're well, man. So Robert, if you guys get to know him, and you should, he's been on the show. He's just a fantastic person. He's just like larger than life, dude. So I was telling my wife yesterday why I was up in Toronto, because I had taken a picture with Robert because he showed me his wonderful space in a mall, his maker space. And I took this picture, and I said, "Who's Robert?" And I said, "I'm trying to think, who can I compare him to?" And I couldn't really think of anybody that I know in our life, our personal life, that I could compare him to. So I kind of gave up. And then I was on the treadmill yesterday, and that's another thing, guys. If you're going to these conferences, bring your sneakers, keep your workouts going. As Dan Martell says, you got to exhaust the body as well to tame the mind. So I'm working out, and I was listening to this really interesting podcast about how introverts make very good salespeople. And this person who was talking, she's a self-proclaimed introvert, and she said, I'm an introvert. When I think of extroverts, I think of them like lighthouses. And I was like, damn, that's it. That's what Robert is. Robert is a lighthouse. And if you've ever met Robert, he's a big dude. I don't know, 6'5", 6'6", plays hockey. Still, probably could have gone professional. He even played with Wayne Gretzky. I've only heard that story 99 times. And I'll hear it every time. And so I like to think of Robert now as a lighthouse. He is a lighthouse of energy and love and knowledge and opportunity. So yeah, I am up here to do all the things that I told you about, to turn this summit into a sales engine, but I am also up here to support somebody I greatly admire in Robert and everything that he does. He is a lighthouse. So Robert, when you do watch this replay, I'm saying to you in front of everybody else, including Austin and the wonderful other people that are joining us, that you are a lighthouse, and we appreciate everything you do for us in the education space, from Canada to America and beyond. I hope everybody has a Robert in their life. And I hope that everybody gets a lot out of what we talked about today. It should take the pressure off of you going to any conference or any summit if you just treat it as a raise your hand campaign. If you just treat it as an opportunity to learn, you will never waste money going to a conference or a summit, because you will absolutely go there to listen and to learn. Thank you for joining me. I will see you all next week back in San Miguel de Allende. And then the week after that, I'll be back in DC after having gone to New Mexico for IEI. So catch me if you can. And you know that you can find me on LinkedIn and catch me anytime. Hope you guys have a great day wherever you are. And find your Robert, find your lighthouse, and make it a great conference, the next one you go to. Thank you. Thanks for listening, Breakers.